Welcome to the show, sports fans. This is the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
Right, welcome in another edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, where we talk District 3 activities week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney, and we are joined by our District 3 expert, Logan Green. LG, what's up?
Hey, Brandon, what's going on?
Hey, it is cold and rainy where I live. As soon as we're done with this, I'm actually going to put on like a hoodie or a sweatshirt to try to warm up. So
it was cold this morning. I think we actually left our window open last night. I was like, man, it's cold, but I'll take it. Well, like I said, last week was the first game I did all season where I needed a jacket in Burley. It was a little chilly out there. They even had snow on the top of the mountain back there behind Burley. I was like, all right, I guess it's coming. But it's always nice to have. I was talking about this with my wife, and I appreciate the seasons, right? Because during the winter, I'm like, I am so done with this. I want it to be hot. And then, late August comes and you're like, I'm so done with this. I'm ready to. So it's good that we have that, right? And it's the same with sports, right? You just can't wait for football. Then you get enough of football or soccer or whatever. And then you get basketball. And then you get enough of basketball. And, it's nice to cycle through everything, right?
yeah, you should have known better going to a place like Burley.
Yeah.
That it would have been cold.
That's a great dad joke, Brandon. I never even thought of that.
You can use that on your kids sometime.
Dang, it's too bad I'm not going there again. I know Paul's going there this week. I should. I'll make the joke in retrospect. How about that?
There you go.
Kids.
Yes, we are featuring Bishop Kelly at Burley this week on IdahoSports.com, amongst other football games. We will get to that in just a little bit. But first, Logan, you mentioned the seasons are changing, and we have gone from regular season to postseason. That's right. Our first postseason events have taken place. It is District Golf for our 5A and 4A competitors. Logan, they were out on the links yesterday, Wednesday, September 27th. Let's start with the less dramatic one, the 4A meet. This was held at the golf course in Star, River Birch Golf Course. To nobody's surprise, Bishop Kelly boys and girls win the team titles. And oh, by the way, BK also had the top individual in each one. On the boys' side, it was Aiden Zentanai, and on the girls' side, Kara Carter were your individual champs, both from Bishop Kelly. So Knights rolling. They will be the favorites at state next week up in North Idaho as well.
Yeah, and that's no different than last year, right? It's crazy. It's already been a year, but I feel like we just had this conversation a year ago. We were looking at some of the shot differentials, right, between the strokes differentials, I'll say, between the first and second, even third place, and we're talking massive gaps for those golfers from BK, just running away with it. And like you said, no drama needed there in Star yesterday. Just another great win for Bishop Kelly Golf.
Meanwhile, the 5A district meet was full of drama. This was at Purple Sage Golf Course, which is in Middleton. And let's start on the boys' side, where individually, Capitol High senior Trevor Garris gets his third district championship of his high school career.
Yeah, that's impressive to win anything. It's hard to three-peat in anything, but to go, 3 years in a row, that means you're doing it as an underclassman, right? That you're winning district championships that young. That's very impressive to do. And golf might be the one sport where, there's other sports, but you can come in as a freshman and really just take over. You have that ability. I think you can do that in the running events as well. Like you see that with some great runners that we have around the state that just win everything from the time they're a freshman to the time they leave. And I think you could do that in golf, and clearly we're seeing that from him right now.
Yeah, Michael Licklama from the Idaho Statesman had a great write-up of the 5A district meet, and he said that Garris is the first golfer to three-peat since Jason Williams of Meridian from 2000 to 02. So we're talking, 20-plus years since somebody has three-peated. Trevor Garris of Capitol ends up shooting... he ends up shooting 3 under par, 68 total. He beats Rocky Mountain's Jacob McFarland by 3 strokes. So McFarland shot right at par. That was the individual race, but Logan, Middleton on their home course ends up winning the team title on the boys' side.
Yeah, they get it done, right? This is a school that's, just moved up to 5A. I know there's all this shifting around, which I'm sure we can hit on in a little bit, but they've been very successful in sports so far, right? And in the move up, and they get it done again here. Boys golf takes the crown, like you said, on the home course. If I ever go up there, there's a lot of Middleton. The golf team holds like a kids golf clinic. A lot of schools do this. I think it's really good. They do it as a fundraiser, right? They have $50 for the kid to come out and play basketball with the basketball team or whatever. But the golf team does it there at Purple Sage, Middleton's golf team. So maybe a little home field advantage, right? Your home course better than anybody. Obviously, that's going to change, moving the holes around and things like that. But generally, those kids are playing that course all the time. And maybe that did hold some advantage for Middleton. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the best golfer in the world or even close. I'm beyond the worst. But it's got to mean something, right? Playing on a course so well. And I know this hole. I know where this goes. I know, if I can hit it just right here, I'm going to be an advantage on the next shot. It really does go a long way. And so they took advantage of it and win the district.
Yeah, so Middleton shoots as a team 299. Boise took second at 303. So Middleton wins by four strokes. Very close. And the way these golf tournaments work, Logan, is you come in and you seed your golfers 1 through 5. You get 5 varsity golfers, and your best golfer is your number 1. Your second best is number 2, so on and so forth. And they do that so they can group players of similar skill set together. So all the number 1s kind of golf together, right, in your foursome. You'll be with other number 1 golfers, which helps competition wise, right? It pushes you to be better, but also then it's not like, oh man, we're waiting on this one guy still.
We're waiting on Logan here. He's still on
right.
Shot 6 on this par 3. Come on, bud.
Right. So the crazy thing is, though, that any of your 5 can score in any order, but you kind of see them coming in. Middleton's number 5 golfer, Logan, actually finished highest amongst all of the Vikings. Cade Dean was the number 5 golfer. He finishes in a tie for 3rd overall, and then he beats Bo Shar from Eagle in a playoff hole. So he takes 3rd place.
Yeah, like you said, just any of those 5, and you see this a lot, like in golf more than other sports, I think, right? Is you have a golf tournament. It's not always your 1, 2, 3, 4 ranking that gets it done, right? It could be 1 to 20 somewhere in there. Somebody comes up and wins it, and so it translates down to high school as well.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So congratulations to the Middleton boys team, and also Trevor Garris of Capitol High, 3-time district champ.
He's headed to UCLA, which is pretty snazzy, right? That's a legit offer to have on your plate.
Oh no, I get to go to UCLA and golf. Oh my God, that's a tough life, man.
Yeah, there are worse things to happen to you.
Yeah, for sure. So congratulations to Trevor. Again, Mike Laclama had that in his article, that little nugget there about Trevor going to play at UCLA. You should go check that out. That's at the Idaho Statesman. On the girls' side, Logan, a little more compelling and just as close of a finish individually, but the team race, a blowout. Rocky Mountain wins yet again. 4th straight district title for the Rocky girls. They shoot a 302. Eagle takes 2nd. They were 29 strokes behind Rocky Mountain, so it gives you an idea of just how dominant this win was. But Rocky was denied on the individual title. Jane Barry from Rocky was trying to pull off the team individual sweep, but she gets into a playoff with Boise High's Kelly Goulet, and Kelly Goulet from Boise High ends up winning the playoff. And so she takes 1st. Jane Barry of Rocky has to settle for 2nd.
Yeah, and you look down the list too. There was a lot of people, golfers just right there together. Not much separation. I know that you might look at it and say, "Oh, it's 5 strokes," but I mean, in the reality of it, it's not that big of a difference. At least to me, I know that's a big deal. That's a difference in PGA between missing a cut and making a cut, obviously, or winning something and being way, in the middle of the pack. But I think in here, I just think these, it's hard. It's a tough sport to be good at very young, like these athletes are. And just a lot of competitive. I mean, you look at it from like 3 to 10, I think it was within 4 or 5 strokes. So Just one little mistake here and there could bump you up a lot or bump you back a lot. So very competitive tournament they had there for 5A.
Yeah, now we turn our attention to state next week. It's going to be interesting on a statewide level how it shakes out at state. The Treasure Valley typically cleans up in 5A and 4A golf, but this year, Logan, a little bit of a wrinkle. The North is hosting state golf this year. The 5A meet is going to be held at the Country Club in Lewiston, and the 4A meet's going to be held at the University of Idaho golf course up there. That's where the 4A is going to be, but those North teams are holding their districts at the state sites. So the 5A schools are going to get a dry run through the Lewiston Country Club for their districts, which is actually happening today as we're recording this on September 28th. And same thing for the 4A golfers up north. They're going to get to play the course at U of I a week before. So does that give them an advantage? We'll see how it all shakes out. But that's kind of an interesting wrinkle to this year's state competition.
And that's a fun course, that U of I course. I played it a couple times when I was in school there. They have a PGA program at U of I, so they've got the golf course there on site. I mean, it's just right there. And we played it a couple times with like accounting professionals would come and endure a round of golf with the students a couple times a year. So it was really fun. That'll be a fun one for the 4A. If you're listening, that is a great, and you haven't played it. It's a great course there in Moscow, so that should be fun.
Yeah, that's where the 4A is going to be held next week, and we will recap state golf and on next week's Prepcast. Another big event came to the Treasure Valley over the weekend, Logan, the Bob Firman Cross Country Invite. It's always held at Eagle Island Park, which is so beautiful. It's a popular spot this time of year, not just for runners, but for recreationists.
I heard some people complaining, like, wow, I was trying to go to the park and it was so busy. And I was like, yeah, well, there was like 4,000 runners or something like that showed up to this thing. And so, people, can I still get in? I'm like, I don't know how could you even get in with that many people? But it is. It's just right there in Eagle, kind of between Eagle and Meridian. It's a great spot. I'm sure everybody, if you're listening, you know where Eagle Island is. But it's my kids love tubing there, and I do too. It's really, they have a tubing hill in the winter, but just a huge race, right? We've covered some cross country races, but I don't think anything on the magnitude of what this race is and how many people are there from other states. Just a huge event there at Eagle Island.
It is the biggest cross country competition in the Northwest for high school. It's insane. So here are the stats. 4,432 athletes from 158 high schools, 69 middle schools, encompassing 7 different states. I mean, what do you got there? Probably Washington, Idaho, obviously, Washington, Oregon, Utah, Nevada, Montana, Wyoming. Yeah. I think some California schools.
Oh, California. Okay.
Holy
cow.
Don't quote me on that. I'm kind of just taking a quick look at it. But yeah, I think there are some, like Seattle,
a lot of driving. Yeah.
Yeah. Seattle Prep was there this year.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive. And yeah, Dana Hills High School from California was there. So yeah.
Wow.
California also. So yeah, this is big league.
Yeah.
With that said, we kind of focus on the varsity elite races, right? These are the best of the best, the cream of the crop. They also have a varsity Division 1, varsity Division 2, and then those are so big, Logan, they have to split them up. It's like, okay, schools A through L run now, schools M through Z run second.
Does it say what time the first race was of the day?
Yeah.
And then what time the last race was? I can't imagine that not being a 12-hour event.
Yeah, and so it's so big. They run the junior high stuff on Friday, and then they do the high school stuff on Saturday. But so Saturday, girls freshmen started at 7:45 in the morning. The last race, it looks like, was girls JV at 2:50.
Man,
so they stagger them. Yeah, they stagger them pretty well, but that is an all-day event for sure. So yeah, pretty interesting. So in those elite races, Logan, on the girls' side, we had Boise High, of course, compete very well. They end up placing 3 runners here in the top 12. Audrey Orm takes second place overall. Sammy Smith finishes 10th, and Allie Bruce takes 12th. So that's a pretty good 3 of the top 12 for Boise High. They'll take it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the amount of people coming in, it's not that they had to just compete against Idaho, but like you said, some of the best athletes in the Northwest are showing up to this. And yeah, that's impressive.
On the boys' side, the highest placer from Idaho in the elite race was Landon Heemeyer from Rocky Mountain. No stranger to the success
go
he's
figure.
had. Right. He takes 4th overall. Right behind him in 5th place, about 13 seconds off of Heemeyer's pace, was Nate Stadlander of Meridian High School. And then how about Luke Stockett from Victory Charter, Logan? Probably one of the smallest schools there. He's running in the elite race. He takes 7th overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think the most impressive thing we hear here, right? Is that this is a small school. I know it's a charter school. It's in a populated area, but it's still a very small school. And to have an elite athlete like that, it just the odds are very small to have that, right? And phenomenal performance by him. Probably caught a lot of eyeballs, right? From different, colleges or anything like that might have been paying attention to the race, saying, what is a Victory Charter? What is this? I'm not sure I've ever heard of this. And it's like, oh, well, this kid's fast, and maybe putting them on the map a little bit, but definitely putting his name on the map, competing in this and finishing in 7th, or what you say, was 7th or 9th? 7th, yeah, out of everyone, and essentially some of the best racers in the Northwest, and to finish there, that's a heck of an effort.
Yeah, and we talked about his older brother Ian Stockett has been kind of the dominant runner in 1A cross country. He's now graduated. Does the Stockett family dynasty continue here with Luke now? We will have to wait and see. But I mean, taking 7th at Bob Firman, yeah, that's going to go a long way for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
congrats to all the runners who competed at Eagle Island State Park over this past weekend. Let's switch to volleyball, Logan. We talked about Skyview last week and how they were traveling to the Durango Classic in Las Vegas to compete again. This is the premier tournament in the West. 64 teams were there competing, and it's only the best of the best, right? You get invited to this tournament. You don't just get to show up. Skyview takes 27th overall out of 64 teams. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that you might look at it on the face and say, oh, you came in 27th, but with who you're talking about, I mean, that means you're better than the best team in theoretically half the states in the whole country, and I'm sure that they were competitive in the losses that they had, but a very impressive run by Skyview to do that in that sort of situation. And, these are elite. We talked about it last week. They've got multiple players that have come and gone from BYU or are going to play for BYU. And, they played on ESPN last year. It's nothing is too big for Skyview volleyball.
Yeah, so congratulations to the Lady Hawks. Hey, I also wanted to give a shout out. We were talking 1A volleyball last week, Logan. And I wanted to, we were talking 1A D2, right, with Horseshoe Bend and Council and Tri-Valley. And I wanted to very quietly, Greenleaf Friends is kind of dominating 1A D1 volleyball in District 3. They're 8-0 in the league, Logan. They're 9-1 overall. And I've watched them on film a couple of times. Just trying to get scores that are missing over the past couple of days. And I'm telling you what, this Greenleaf Friends team they're athletic and they can get after it.
Yeah. Danger. I mean, to be 8-0 in conference, 9-1 overall, there's only one other undefeated team, Victory Charter. Those two will play next week. Is that the last game of the season for both of them? That probably is going to decide who is the number 1 seed in the district tournament, I'm guessing.
Yes. And everybody keeps telling me Liberty Charter, is kind of the team, and they get a lot of votes from the coaches poll and stuff, but Greenleaf just swept Liberty Charter 3-0 on Tuesday. So yes, you're right. Victory Charter, Greenleaf, kind of on this collision course. They will play on next Tuesday, October 3rd. So,
well, Brandon, you're talking about them, right? They lost. Their one loss on the year is to 2A Ambrose, right? So obviously they lost 3 sets there. They've lost 2 total sets in their wins. That's it. Like, They're just sweeping everybody. You look at it like that, and they're not squeaking out, right? You see this with a lot of sports like the NFL, right? A team goes, 12-4 one year, I guess 12-5 now that they've 17, but they win 8 of those games by a field goal, 2 or 3 points. And it's just not going to go that way every season, right? It's going to flip and you're going to go back. And so you can look at, sometimes it can be hard to judge a team, but when you judge a team like them where they've just absolutely blown everybody out, I think you can say, yeah, this team is good. And they're set up, right? Just been able to essentially roll through their schedule, anybody that's on the equal level as them.
Yeah. In 2A volleyball quickly, Cole Valley Christian and Melba continue to be the 2 big teams there. Ambrose is also very good, as you alluded to, Logan. They're 6-3. Cole Valley is 3-0 in conference play, 10-1 overall. Melba is 2-0 in conference play, 3-3 overall. They've already played once this year. Cole Valley swept Melba 3-0, and you're wondering, okay, well, how's Melba still undefeated in conference? Well, only the second conference matchup counts in the league standings because there's so many teams in the conference, and you can't play everybody twice. So some schools you do play twice, but the first one is a non-conference matchup. So the game that counts, the match that counts between Melba and Cole Valley, is coming up next Thursday, October 5th.
Man, and you look at what Cole Valley's been able to do, right? I mean, they've beaten Weiser, they beat Parma, they've beaten some of these 3A schools that have been on their schedule. But what a testament their only loss is to 1A D2 Horseshoe Bend. So I just showed you how good Horseshoe Bend is. We've talked ad nauseum about them and their volleyball program. And how, if you haven't heard it, go listen to the past ones. But we're talking Cole Valley, one of the best 2A schools, and they can't even beat Horseshoe Bend. So that's impressive for the Mustangs on a side note.
Yes. So we'll keep an eye on Cole Valley as they keep going, and obviously Horseshoe Bend. And then 3A, I wanted to mention briefly, Fruitland was the team, right? They got to the championship last year. They had the player of the year in the entire state in a freshman. But McCall-Donnelly, look out. Here are the Vandals. They just beat Fruitland. And it's McCall-Donnelly sitting in the driver's seat at 5-0 in the conference, 7-0 overall. When they beat Fruitland earlier this week, Logan, it was Fruitland's first loss of the year. And so here are the Vandals with Gabby Green and some of these dynamic athletes that they've got. And good season for the Vandals.
Yeah, they've only lost one set all year as well to Weiser. That's it. They've 3-0'd everybody except the Wolverines. So that's an impressive role right there for McCall-Donnelly.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on McCall-Donnelly in volleyball as well. I like this, kind of statewide. There's some new blood and new teams that are
parity. Yes.
Yeah, like Salmon over in East Idaho is leading their division. Like, that's awesome. Like, when was the last time Salmon, was able to say, yeah, we've got a first place team in volleyball? It's great. I love it. So,
yeah, whenever we get into sports and you see new teams, it's great to see the old faces that dominate year in and year out. But it's also fun to see that, the Final Four this year, right? NCAA basketball was a bunch of, besides UConn, new teams. It was kind of fun to see that. I think everybody likes to see a little bit of new and, who are you and what are you about? And let's find out. And so it should be a fun tournament coming up in a couple weeks. For
sure. Soccer, this 5A boys soccer race, Timberline 9-1-1, Rocky Mountain 9-1-1, Boise 9-1-2. All three outstanding clubs. Who ends up winning this regular season title? I'm not sure. Timberline just played Boise last night, Logan, and they battled to a 1-1 draw. That was the match we all thought, okay, this probably decides the league title. They end up splitting 1-1.
Yeah, and I mean, even Bora only has one loss. They have 4 ties, but it's like Bora plays Timberline on Monday, and you just don't know. Those two played earlier in the year, a 3-2 game that Timberline won non-conference, but they tied Boise 3-3, right? So it's, we were talking about it off air. It can go where you're the better team for 79 minutes, but you make one little hiccup for 1 30-second span of time when a team puts one in the back of the net, and that's the difference, right? So it's a mess, right? It could be any of those teams there at the top, and including Bora, who's just sitting there with the one conference loss too.
Just consider this, just in the last week since we last recorded the show, Logan. Okay, last Wednesday, Bora ties Rocky 3-3. Okay, then we move to the following week where Rocky beats Boise 2-0, and then Rocky beats Timberline as well. And so Rocky ties Bora. They beat Timberline, beat Boise. Boise and Timberline both tie last night. And so the way I'm looking at this is that if everybody wins out, I think Rocky wins that regular season title. They've got the head-to-head over Timberline and Boise, and I don't know that Bora can bankroll enough wins to catch him in that department. So
no, because they've only got 6 right now. They got the 4 ties. So you know what? I don't know about regular season, but districts, Bora might be a dangerous team.
Yeah, so I think the regular season is set with head-to-head tiebreakers and everything. I think it's going to be Rocky 1, and then Timberline 2, just based on they've only have 1 tie and Boise's got 2. And then I think Boise would be 3, but it's very interesting. 3 and really 4 really good teams at the top. And we'll be talking district brackets here soon enough with that. 4A boys soccer, we talked about this year, Bishop Kelly and Caldwell. We talked about the first time they matched up. They just met in the rematch not that long ago. They battled to a 1-1 draw, Logan. So Caldwell gets a 2-1 win over Bishop Kelly, and then they tie. These are still the 2 premier teams.
Right, yes. And it's going to come down. It has, right? The past couple of years, even at the state championship, it's been these 2 that have found their way to the title game. Columbia was able to get a tie in there against Caldwell, so something just to, be aware of. But, that's what it is, right? That's 4A soccer, not just SIC, but statewide, is that it's BK and it's Caldwell.
Yeah. Boys soccer at the 3A level, it's McCall-Donnelly. The Vandals are 7-1-2. They're 4-1-1. They took that early season trip up north to play, some of the best teams from North Idaho. They played Coeur d'Alene Charter. They played Timberlake. They beat Timberlake. They tied Coeur d'Alene Charter. They beat Lewiston, a 5A team earlier this year. This is a McCall-Donnelly team that I think has real championship aspirations here in boys soccer.
Yeah, their only loss is a 2-1 defeat to Fruitland, and they'll actually play Fruitland again tonight, right, on Thursday night for the rematch. If they can get the win there, that should create a little bit of separation. Fruitland's got a couple of losses, but a win there should really, I think, cement them into that top spot there in the district.
Yeah, McCall-Donnelly trying to get back to state. They made it last year, representing this district. So good luck, Vandals. And yeah, Fruitland beat McCall-Donnelly, but overall, 5-6-2, maybe a little bit of a head scratcher there, but we'll see how the rematch shakes out for sure. On the girls soccer side, Logan, when we start talking about, we'll just start at 3A and work our way up. When you're talking about 3A, of course, Fruitland is the team that we most associate with the Snake River Valley Conference these past couple of years. They've still got a little firepower. They're 8-2-1, and they're 5-0 in the league.
Yeah, I don't think they've slowed down really at all. They lost to LeGrand, right? They tied Ontario, and they lost to LeGrand twice. Those are their 2 losses are from out of state, so they've yet to lose or tie an Idaho team, right? They've beaten every team from Idaho they played so far. So doesn't look like they've slowed down at all. But all of a sudden you look at who's next, and it's Homedale, right? The team that didn't have a team a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden Homedale is on a roll, and they want to make it to state for the first time ever, right?
Yeah, and Homedale just tied McCall-Donnelly 1-1. And so I think when you look at Fruitland and Homedale and Weiser and McCall-Donnelly, there's really good parity in the league this year, and that district tournament is going to be a lot of fun to see all of these teams duke it out. I like Fruitland to take a spot, and then that second spot, who knows, could be anybody.
Yeah, it could be.
For sure. Girls soccer in 4A hasn't changed much. It's Bishop Kelly and Valley View still kind of leading the charge there. But then on the girls side in 5A soccer, Logan, again, at the top, pretty evenly matched, with Boise being 10-0. They're 11-0 overall. Timberline's right behind them, 8-0-1 in league. 10-1-2 overall. Eagle and Owyhee are also having outstanding seasons. Owyhee, I think, is a real dark horse in this whole race. But you look at Boise and what they're able to do year in, year out. They play Timberline tonight, Logan. Thursday, September 28th. This will probably decide the regular season title.
Yeah, it probably does. And they got a big win last night against Rocky. They just beat Owyhee 2-0 as well. They haven't allowed a goal since they gave up one to Meridian on September 9th. And the last goal before that, they've given up 2 goals all season. They gave up one to Bora on August 22nd and one to Meridian on September 9th. And that is it. If you want to beat them, you're going to have to score, obviously. And that just scoring would be quite the feat. But, I mean, you look at what they've been able to score, 2, 4, 6, 5, 9, 2. You know, they're going to get at least 2 goals a game, it seems like, and nobody else has been able to get barely one on them. So it's going to be tough. I mean, Boise just looks like they're in control once again.
Yeah, and not that they needed more help, right, with players like Sammy Smith and Sophia Clark and CUNY Hirai all returning from last year's team. But they also picked up a transfer from Thunder Ridge. And you're thinking, boy, how did that happen? Marisol Stosic started as a freshman at Thunder Ridge last year. She's now a sophomore. She plays club soccer, though, with all these girls from Boise, and decided, I kind of like this. And her parents have moved to Boise so she can play with these girls. And so there you go, taking one of Thunder Ridge's best players and adding it to this nucleus already. Good recipe for success.
Yeah, and they have been, right? I mean, clearly just on a roll. So it's Boise's to lose once again.
Yeah. Now Thunder Ridge isn't too happy about this, but you know, Boise is operating within the rules, and so hey, more power to you, I guess.
And it's not like just hopping down the street, right? That's like I moved.
Yes.
Like that is, what do you want them to do? Go back to Thunder Ridge every day? Like, that's not happening. So
yeah, pretty significant there. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that race as well. All right, Logan, let's talk football. Let's kind of talk about what's coming up. We have a couple of games on IdahoSports.com, starting with Bishop Kelly and Burley. Of course, we talked about Friday night, 7:00. This will be a great chance for you to see Bishop Kelly up close and personal. I don't know how much fans have been able to see BK this year. We see the results and we know they're good, but if you want to know why they're good, this is a good opportunity.
Yeah, and BK, they're gonna win this game. I think they're gonna go in, and Burley has struggled on defense lately. I just saw them play against Minico, and it was a difficult time for them. They have, one of the best players in the nation on offense anywhere, but the defense, and Bishop Kelly's going to give them fits. And that's not a knock on Burley, I'll say, just because look what BK did last year, right? Minico was one of the top teams in the state all year long, and Minico comes into the state semifinals and gets beat real bad by Bishop Kelly. And maybe Bishop Kelly sees the light, right? It's been all about the East Idaho teams the last couple of years, all about Skyline the last couple of years. And Hillcrest looks legit, right, over there. But maybe Bishop Kelly, maybe this is their time, right? Maybe this is their time, and they've scheduled good teams to play against. Burley came over here last year. They're going to go to Burley this year. And like you said, a good chance and a good test for them to go up against a player like Gatlin Bear. That offense is very good from Burley. And so it'll give the BK defense a chance to see a very good offense and a chance to see what they can do against a good offense like that.
Yeah, Chris Kulig, former Rocky Mountain coach in his first year at Bishop Kelly, just keeping the ball rolling, doing a great job there. So that's the game we'll have for you on IdahoSports.com this week, involving teams from the Treasure Valley. 5A SIC, Boise still undefeated, which is awesome. We'll deep dive into that next week, where next week we'll start talking about, okay, we're in October. Let's start looking at the playoffs. How is everything going to shake out? Because we could spend 2 hours talking about this 5A SIC. We got some requests, Logan, to do it.
We should say, though, they play this week, right, against Eagle. Both are 5-0, and that might determine who wins the Rivers division. So it is a significant game between those two. Probably win out the rest of the way, whoever wins that one, I haven't looked at the rest of the schedule, but based on what they've done, whoever wins that one. But like you said, the 5A SIC is a disaster, and in a good way, right? We said that last week. It's just a big mess, and we can deep dive that next week because that one we could have a whole episode just on what's going on there.
Yes. But we get requests from people to give them, we always welcome this. If there is a story, a team, a topic you want us to cover, you can always email us, Brandon@IdahoSports.com, Logan@IdahoSports.com. And I got a couple of emails this week asking us to do a deep dive into this Weiser football team at the 3A level. They've got a huge game with McCall-Donnelly coming up. By the way, I said last week on the Prepcast, McCall-Donnelly is the team nobody's talking about. And they had this matchup with Fruitland, and I thought this was kind of a de facto playoff game between these two teams. And now McCall-Donnelly says, okay, we took out the third place team from last year. Now we're going to set our sights on the second place team. But for Weiser specifically, Logan, they just are rolling. I mean, Tom Harrison, legendary coach, continuing to win games no matter where he goes. Weiser is undefeated, and they've shown pretty decent balance this year. They definitely favor the run, but when they do drop back to pass, it's high efficiency, high completion percentage.
Yeah, this is a team only a year and 2 years removed from a state championship, right? They broke up the dynasty for Sugar Salem. That Sugar Salem came back, and I know, it always comes down to, is it going to be Fruitland, or is it going to be Homedale or Weiser? It's going to come. Those two will play next week, and I don't want to overlook the McCall-Donnelly game, like you said. But, I mean, if they get past McCall-Donnelly, and it comes down to that, right? And that's a huge game. Weiser, Homedale, more than likely picks who finishes third. And that is a huge game, right? Because that's going to set up, and it happened last year, right? Weiser had to go to Homedale in the state semifinals. And Weiser's good. Like, they're very good. They did it last year. They went all the way to the semifinals. And then they ran into some trouble against Homedale. And those two teams have flipped even. Like, the team that wins the regular season has lost the playoff game, or vice versa. And so I would watch out. If you're Weiser, don't overlook this week. I think they're going to be fine. Like you said, they're a dark horse. I think McCall-Donnelly. If you can get past them safely, I think you got to feel really good. But again, that game next week against Homedale probably more than likely is for the second seed at state rather than, and they won't actually be the third, though. I think the way the 3A bracket sets up, but you don't have to. You will be at home. You'll be at home until the state championship, and I think that's the big thing.
Yes. So what makes Weiser so good? Well, their offense, they run, it's kind of a hybrid wing tee. Coach Tom Harrison likes to call it the Wolverine tee, which I love. I love that branding. But they definitely love to run the ball, Logan. They're averaging 230 rushing yards per game. They're averaging 8.2 yards per carry. So, I mean, when you're able to rip off 8-9 yards on every single carry, you are just going to wear down the opponent into submission as the game goes along. And then they couple that with really stingy defense. On the season, they are only allowing, what is it?
Well, they only gave up 8 points to Payette, 14 to Cole Valley, 6 to Bonners Ferry. Yeah. They shut out LeGrand, and then 21 to Buell. And you can ignore opening week, but really since then, what is that, 28 points they've given up since week one. So a touchdown a game is essentially what they're giving up, a touchdown and some change. That's stout defense.
Yep, they've got 8 takeaways on defense, 6 interceptions, 2 fumbles recovered. They have 15 sacks, so they average 3 sacks per game. They bring the pass rush. It's hot and heavy there. And so strong running game, strong defense, core tenets of what makes Weiser good. Some individual players to highlight. We talk about running the ball. It's almost nearly identical production between their top 2 ball carriers this year, Caleb Grove and Jaden Walker. They're both seniors. Grove has rushed for 354 yards. Walker has rushed for 346. But the big difference is, Logan, Grove has done it with 20 more carries, 46 carries for Grove. So that's 7.7 yards per carry. Mm-hmm. Walker has gotten his on just 25 touches. That's 13.8 yards per carry. So he is probably the lightning to Caleb Grove's thunder.
Yeah, you're getting a first down every carry, right? And I'm sure that's not, obviously you're not getting exactly 13 and going down to the ground. You got to imagine a couple of those are stuffed at the line, but then you factor in those ones that are going for longer. He's the guy you got to watch out for to break it into the second level there for Weiser.
Yeah, and Grove has scored 8 rushing touchdowns. Walker has scored 6. And so we talked about Weiser doesn't pass a ton, but when they do, it is high efficiency and it's a lot of yards after catch. Colin Cook is the starting quarterback his first time as a junior this year, Logan. He's completing 75% of his passes. He's 50 of 66 on the season for 823 yards. And I think what Coach Harrison loves most, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, and they, again, when you want to throw it, they're fine to do it. And that's where they just lull you to sleep with that, that Wolverine tee, right? Keep it on the ground. And then all of a sudden they go over the top and somebody's open. You didn't expect them to be, and boom, touchdown Weiser. They're going to put up points on offense. They're going to stop you on defense. I mean, you look back a couple years ago, that state championship game, they won it on the final play on defense, right? It's stop at the goal line. And they were able to get it done. They're just a tough team on both sides of the ball.
Yes. And then also in the special teams, Weiser is always good at special teams. I feel like Brock Spencer has returned at least a kickoff and a punt for touchdowns this year, just on games we've done on IdahoSports.com. I've seen it. So I don't know how many touchdown returns he has this year, but it's a lot. And that's a factor. He's of course the top receiver and the chain mover on offense, but he's also a very lethal return man. And then kicking wise, Logan, Weiser's got a really solid, steady, dependable kicker. He made our top 10 special teams players list during the offseason. Rendon Olson, he's been kicking since he was a sophomore. He was a sophomore kicker on that championship team from 2 years ago. He's 33 of 35 on PATs this year. They've only brought him out for 1 field goal, but as he moves inside potentially to other, domed arenas in the playoffs, they might feel more comfortable having him attempt more field goals. But when you've got a rock solid kicker like Rendon Olson as well, because how many games have we seen this year where a missed kick on a PAT is what decided the game?
I mean, and it ripple effects, right? You miss the one, then you try to catch up and you don't get it. You go for 2 and you don't pick it up, and all of a sudden you're missing 2 points and somebody goes for 2, and now all of a sudden you're down by 3. It's a big difference, and to have somebody go out there with no worry at all that they're going to knock it through is a huge security blanket.
Yep. So Weiser, it's all the things we've come to expect. Good, solid run game, excellent defense, very good special teams, and that's what makes the Wolverines so tough as they now get into their most important stretch of the year.
And I'll say it's one of my favorite places to go do a game. I said it before, but I love the hill there on the left side, right, where it'll be covered in red. They got this hill that goes down to the field, and it's a great site. Weiser, if you're looking for a fun place to watch a football game, Weiser is definitely near the top of that list.
Yep. And McCall-Donnelly comes in undefeated as well. So you've got Homedale, Weiser, McCall-Donnelly, all undefeated. They're all going to play each other here over the next couple of weeks. This is a McCall-Donnelly team. They've got a very good quarterback in Maddox Arnold, can really throw the ball and throws a deep ball really well. Cole Burtonshaw kind of lines up all over on offense for them. They also play really good, solid defense. And so I'm excited to see how this game shakes out. Adam Rushton is kind of their middle linebacker for McCall-Donnelly, and he kind of leads the troops there. This is going to be a fun game, I think.
Yeah, it's a home game for McCall-Donnelly, and so I think that you've got that in your favor, right? You've got the home field advantage. You got the home crowd. Maybe you can sneak an upset in there because it would be huge, right? It would be a massive upset. Weiser is securely into this number 3 spot at state, right? Or, in the state rankings. That's where I don't think the 3A rankings have changed at all this year. At least the top 3, I don't think have moved. And I think Teton is number 4. And I don't know if the top 4 have changed all year. It has been pretty secure that everybody knows that, and again, any of those 3 at the top could be it. But McCall-Donnelly, I think they probably have something to say about that, right? They want to come in here and cause some noise and push some buttons. They're not that far out. They played for a 2A state championship just a couple of years ago, back in 2019. So they were right there, just a couple years off from that. So they know how to get to state championships.
Yep. So here's my pitch to all of the Homedale and Weiser and McCall-Donnelly fans. You're going to have your respective game Friday night. And then we're thinking big picture here, right? Postseason. If you want to see two highly regarded teams and figure out what they're all about, on IdahoSports.com this Friday night, Logan, we've got a big non-conference showdown. Sugar Salem at Timberlake. They are traveling to the north to play Timberlake. It's a Pacific time zone kickoff of 7:00. So that's an hour behind everybody. So your game will get over. And I bet you could watch at least the second half of Sugar Salem and Timberlake as you're going home or doing whatever. And this is a great opportunity to see two of the best teams in 3A and kind of go, okay, how would we stack up against these guys?
Yeah. And, McCall has already beaten Timberlake, right?
Yes.
And so now, if you're McCall, right, you watch this game and you see Timberlake hang with Sugar Salem, you got to feel really good about yourself, right? You got to think, okay, we're right here. We're, because that's the elephant in the room, right? Is Sugar Salem, right? Nobody wants to talk about them, but that's the truth of the matter, right? Is that they're the ones that you have to go through. Weiser has done it. Weiser has gone through Sugar Salem and won a state championship. Homedale has not yet, unfortunately. It's just crazy. You look at 3A state championships, it has been one of those three that has either played or won it for the past 6 years. I mean, nobody else has even been in the fight. It's just been those three. So you got to go through them. So here's your chance, right, to watch them go up against a team. Timberlake came down and played Weiser last year in the first round of the playoffs, and I went and did that game. And I tell you, Timberlake was right there. Like, I think that it surprised a lot of the Weiser folks that they were in that game. It was closer than I think a lot of people thought it was going to be, including myself, and Timberlake showed up. So like you said, Brandon, a fun one to watch right here on Idaho Sports on Friday night.
Yep. And if you want to see all the games that we are broadcasting, just go to the homepage, IdahoSports.com, click on the game streams tab up in the right corner of the screen. That'll show you all the games that we are doing statewide. All right, Logan, we will next week start diving into like district brackets. We'll talk about state golf. We'll start talking football playoff picture. How's it looking? Our bracketology series will be coming back on the website starting next week. Once we get into October, that's when I start putting on my bracketology cap and start breaking it down. So
I mean, it's crazy to think about, right? When we talk next week, we'll have those games and then 2 weeks of games, and that's it. And then we're at state. It's crazy that it's already just right around the corner. We're going to have state tournaments kicking off in there will probably, the 28th, today's the 28th. One month from today, we will be knee deep in round one.
Yeah, I'm not ready for it personally.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy the competition this weekend, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Treasure Valley Prepcast. For Logan Green, I'm Brandon Baney, and we'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.